Hey there, Business of Unicorns podcast listeners. This is Mark, and I'm here to tell you about an awesome free resource on businessforunicorns.com. If you ever find yourself feeling frustrated with your training gym because you know that there are all sorts of things you could work on, but you're not really sure how to prioritize, you don't know what's the most important thing to work on or what order you should be tackling your priorities, well, now is the time to go to businessforunicorns.com, click the button, and fill out our free self-assessment. With the Ultimate Training Gym Owner Report Card, you will gain immediate clarity on just where to be focusing your attention to create more positive impact on your community, to drive more revenue and take home income, and to do it all with less stress and more peace of mind. So go to businessofunicorns.com, click the button, fill out that free self-assessment, and start building a business and life you love today.
Fitness business nerds, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business of Unicorns podcast. And today I'm back again with Pete Dupuis, and it's a real treat as always. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm so excited about today's topic because it's one I think we both have a lot to say about it. And it's the one that I think we want all of our Unicorn Society members to hear. And so, I mean, how do I tee this off? Let me tee us off like this, is that one of the ways to think about a business is to think about it like a system. And I think we all learned about how systems work, probably like in like 6th or 7th grade math or geometry, and that systems have an input, a throughput, and an output, right? So if your business is a system, there's input, there's people and money and the external environment, inputting all kinds of things into your business. There's a throughput, what you do with all that information and clients and money and context, and then an output, things that you create, value you create in the world, jobs you create, et cetera, et cetera. And I think one of the most frequently kind of underanalyzed parts of the system in most businesses is the input, specifically the external environment. All too often, I see gym owners, including myself at times, have been so myopic that we've only focused on like what happens inside the 4 walls of our building. And if we're focused on anything outside the 4 walls, it's usually really limited to like marketing. Like, what are we doing on social media? Does our website look good? Right? And even that is pretty navel gazy, right? It's still pretty much just focusing on ourselves. And so the topic we want to cover today, this is maybe a long way to intro it, is the idea that one of the things you should really care about that's out there in the external environment is your competition. Right? Oftentimes in like a traditional, business analysis, you think of this as like a SWOT analysis, or your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And 2 of those letters focus on the external environment, where you're like, hey, who else is out there that's our competition, and should we care about them? And I think specifically where we want to start this conversation today is almost everyone who's listening to this podcast who owns a gym should at the bare minimum know who your biggest competition is in your market. What I mean is like your top 3 to 5 competitors within a 5 to 10 minute drive, assuming you're in a context where that makes sense. And what do they charge for their services? What services they offer? How do they charge for them? How does their onboarding work? Right? There's some basics you should really know here. And all too often, I think Pete and I have had many phone calls where we talk to Unicorn Society members and other clients that we work with who are just have a kind of a blind spot to that. It's something they haven't focused on, and we both, I think, are in agreement that much to their detriment. So yeah, that's my very long teeing up of this conversation. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Pete. Like, why does that matter so much? And frankly, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Why are there so many folks who just seem to not pay attention to that at all? What's going on there?
Well, we admittedly throw a lot at our Unicorn Society members. That's as true. Far as getting on board, as far as ramping up, getting familiarized with planning and goal setting and figuring out what our metrics are and the KPI we're chasing, all these things. And we admittedly don't talk a lot about where do you fall within the competitive landscape. Yeah. And the reason I put this topic on the table was because I had a call recently where I had a gym owner in an expensive urban market lamenting the fact that if he could go back in time, he would have done exclusively group training, but upwards of 75% of his clients are paying for personal training in a one-on-one format, and they would be disrupted if we were to take that away from him. And I said, okay, well, why don't you familiarize me with your pricing strategy a little bit so I can hear what it costs? And when he told me what it cost, I thought it sounded grossly underpriced, the one-on-one training, based on where he was. Because quite frankly, we charge the same amount for one-on-one in our gym in the woods, 25 miles west of Boston.
Sure.
And I'm talking about a premium market that he is in, paying premium rental dollars. And so I said to him, I was like, wow, well, familiarize me with what it would cost to go to personal train at the Equinox or the Lifetime Athletic Club in your area. What are people paying for that? And he had absolutely no idea. And I said, well, you know what? Making this transition with these clients who aren't that excited about giving up their one-on-one might be easier than you think, because I think the first step is just getting yourself to fair market value from a pricing strategy standpoint.
Yeah.
And that involves understanding what market value is and doing your homework. And so as a jumping off point, at the very least, you need to know whether your pricing strategy is hurting you because you're overpriced, hurting you because you're underpriced, and by that I mean leaving opportunity on the table, or very appropriate. And if you can't answer that question for us, your coaches or colleagues or mentors, then you're kind of flying blind in your market. So that's why I wanted to talk about this and get your take on it, because I think it's imperative that we know what the competition is offering, how they're pitching it to our potential clients, and how they're talking about it, and where their strengths and weaknesses lie, and we go really deep on that. And I'm encouraging people more and more often to do so when I give action items coming out of coaching calls.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think the first things that I think is great feedback for us is that, certainly we as coaches and mentors, and even on this podcast, can probably do more to talk about competitive analysis, ways to do that, ways to do it ethically, because I think that's part of the barrier for people, at least the folks I talk to, and this has been the case at Mark Fisher Fitness as well, is that sometimes when we wanted to learn what the competition is up to, we felt we felt like we're being shady, right? It's kind of strange to go and just sign up as if you're a member and, go walk in the door and lie as if you just moved to the neighborhood, right? And some of you are in neighborhoods where you can't actually get away with that because everyone knows everyone. Right? In New York City, we can be a little bit anonymous and walk into the local Barry's Boot Camp or Equinox and pretend we're interested and collect information. But in many ways, the barrier for that was that it felt just too slimy. It felt too shady, and we didn't want to be deceiving our neighbors. and so from time to time, we would actually go over and actually just say, "Hey, we're from Mark Fisher Fitness down the street. We wanted to know what you're up to." We had a few staff members who were very comfortable going in and doing that. But so if you don't have a staff member who is comfortable going in and just saying like, "Hi, we want to know what you do here. Do you have a rate sheet I can have?" Then the other way that we did feel good about doing this, and I've known some Unicorn Society members to do this as well, is to talk to your clients. Many of them came from other facilities where they can at least give you a ballpark of what the services were like there, what they charge there, how their policies work there. And if not, you're often over time going to have clients who are at some point going to try out that neighbor. Right? So I think that's another place where we can turn and gather kind of competitive analysis information without feeling like creepers about it, because I do think that's a big barrier for folks. Definitely felt like one for us.
I think we need to get over this feeling creepy thing, because you know what?
Yeah.
Business is kind of warfare these days. And I'm not saying be a sleazebag and, like schedule a complimentary assessment and go in and use it and take all their sales pitch and then leave. But I remember really catching interns off guard when I said I had somebody filling in at the front desk for a short period. And I said, here's the deal. Every time you answer the phone, I want you to imagine that Mike Boyle is calling and he is asking you about the services you could offer his daughter, who is a hockey player. Mm-hmm. And I want you to think about this in the sense that we could be getting audited by our competition at every minute of every day.
Yeah.
And you know what? Wouldn't be illegal for them to do that. And I wouldn't be, out on the internet publicizing how shady I thought it was that they asked me what we charge. I think this is kind of a narrative that we've imposed upon ourselves. Because, look, Fisher shared a podcast with us recently from Hormozy where he said, share the secrets and sell the execution. Mm-hmm. This is what we're talking about. And prices and training offerings and service models are not secrets. No. They're not behind lock key. We're putting half of it on our website, and we're having conversations with people on the sidewalk about what we do and telling them what we charge. So we're not talking about stealing state secrets here.
Yeah.
We're talking about doing an actual market analysis and understanding where we fall in the competitive landscape.
I was just say I agree 110%, right? And I think I would like to see the industry move in the direction where everyone's doors are open, right? Where like let everyone in, right? None of us have unique information that is worthy of protection, right? None of us are doing anything. None of us have real special sauce behind the scenes, and really, if we have any special sauce in our business, it's often about individuals. Right? It's often about the people that we employ and the culture we've created, which is not stealable. That's not stealable content. So I think the idea of let the information be free, and really deliver, sell the content or sell the execution, I think is exactly right. I will say this, that that is definitely not the energy in New York City. I mean, I remember we had whole teams. We in some cases we still do this. We pay our team members, specifically our trainers, to go take classes at their place at least once a month. We would pay for them to go take classes, and they would come back and report on what they were doing. And there were some studios who flat out reached out to us and asked us to stop doing that. Who fully reached out to us and said, "Hey, we know you've been sending your team members," and they fully felt like we were spying on them. And we're like, no, we just want our team members to get inspired by the great work that's happening in New York City, by all the great different ways of doing things, and we didn't think that was really proprietary information, and we certainly weren't trying to be shady about it. But I say all that to say that's part of where my hesitation comes from, and I want to applaud the idea that we can maybe, even in this podcast, start to help inspire a new chapter of that for gym owners, to say, y'all, open your doors to your neighbors, right? You really got nothing secret, special you're doing in there. And if you are, and you're so afraid of someone getting that one policy or that one way of coaching or that one way of running a class, if you're afraid that they're going to take that and then suddenly take you down, then we should have a conversation about your confidence, because I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, I'm showing up for this podcast every single week to give away our secrets. So I've obviously kind of conditioned myself to think a little differently about this.
Totally.
But we have had an open door policy for years. We shut it down during COVID for a little while. It was, let's take one less variable of strangers coming through our gym at times. But it's back. I have a Mike Boyle strength and conditioning summer intern coming in on Monday to hang out for the afternoon. And when that happens, I say to my team I tell every single staff member of the team, we've got an intern coming from MBSC, roll out the red carpet for them.
Yep.
Because I want them to do the same for me if I request that they extend that favor. I want to be able to send an email off to somebody I know on their staff and say, hey, I got an intern that we're really looking at. Like we're grooming them, and I want them to see as many models as possible. We admire what you guys do over there. Would you be comfortable with them coming in and observing for an afternoon? And thankfully, they don't have a territorial mindset to this, and we understand that it's mutually beneficial when we open our doors. And that's why we have our annual fall seminar. They have a winter seminar. We talk about exactly what we do. We hand out our pricing sheet, and we explain our model to anyone who comes through the door, because there's so many fish in this sea. Literally every single house on every single street has somebody who could train with all of us. So we just need to stop being so threatened by the competition, unless they're just so much better than us that we need tricks and hidden agendas to thrive in our market.
I will say this: I want to yes and us, because I want to say yes. I agree 100%. I wish we could all open our doors, and frankly, we invite anyone to come to Mark Fisher Fitness and come check us out. We've given away probably thousands of free visits to trainers from all over the world, and we'll keep doing that. And I want to add to this, I want to acknowledge, and I think you'll agree with this, that we also have in our facilities kind of a privileged position of being relatively well known. And in markets where we don't think there's a lot of scarcity, right? I'm in New York City, millions of people on my doorstep. Cressy is a giant name that people flock to from all over the world. And I'm sure there are some listeners that are thinking, you know what, actually, that's not me. That's not the position I'm in. It's me and one other gym in town, and they are, in fact, our competition. Every time we lose a person, we lose them to them. So every competitive advantage we can have really matters to us. And I would say, I just want to acknowledge that I think, our two facilities are probably different than some folks who are in super small markets, very rural markets, where maybe competition is really real for them. And I don't know that experience. I don't know what that's like. And so if you listeners, that's you, I want to say that I see you. I want to make space for you. And at the same time, I also want to challenge you to say, maybe there's a friendship and a collaboration that can be made from your competition. Maybe you can be both, have open doors and really differentiate yourself. I'm not sure, but I want to just add that layer to the conversation.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There are businesses that we compete with that we're not eagerly passing trade secrets back and forth with.
Yeah.
But I'm talking more in the bigger picture here, and I think there are ways of playing nice. Not every facility has a team large enough as ours at our two respective facilities to run really valuable comprehensive in services.
Yeah.
So if I were in a small market, but I mean, these markets are all so watered down as far as the competitive landscape. There's so many gyms that it's kind of hard to say, like, I'm at war with every one of them.
Of course.
And so if I were in a small market and I had 8 or 10 gyms in a 5 to 10 mile radius around me, I would entertain the idea of crowdsourcing our continuing ed. I would reach out to a local gym and say, hey, my team meets on Wednesday mornings from this time, and we cover continuing ed. Would you guys ever be interested in collaborating? Would you guys ever be interested in kind of alternating lectures? I mean, Andrew Millett, our physical therapist, and Chris Howard, our manual therapist, I know routinely over the years have gone out and given lectures at CrossFits around our community. They're out interacting at different CrossFit boxes often. And to me, that isn't like, oh, why'd you do that? Those are the bad guys. We don't believe in the workout of the day. No, it's, hey, spread the word. Anything that makes us look like nice guys internally in this community, I'm good with it. Go out there and play nice with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great philosophy, and certainly, it's one that we've tried to uphold at MFF as well. Just trying to be like the nicest kids in town, right? Just like let everyone like us, right? I mean, if that means collaborating on education or continuing education, means collaborating on community events or charity events, right? There's, if you're in a market where you feel like there's enough people to go around, and that's most markets, there's no harm in being open-doored and collaborative. Well, let's leave them with this. Original thought here was that if you're someone who's listening who owns a gym right now and you are not clear about what your competition is offering in your area, I think that's the big takeaway from today's chat, is go find out. Go find out in all the ways that feel good to you, but go find out and make sure you understand what are they offering, what makes them different, specifically what their rates are, right? Because a big part of how you understand what you can charge is what you're being compared to. And I think without that information, you're really shooting in the dark in a way that's unnecessary, because that information is pretty readily available. Anything you would add to that call to action, Pete?
Yeah, don't just do it once.
Yeah.
Do it every 12 to 24 months.
Yeah.
And I would make it a shareable spreadsheet with your team, and I'd periodically update it. Like to the point where I'd say once a quarter, I would open it with the team during staff meeting and say, hey, what do we understand so-and-so is doing for online programming these days? Or have you heard from any clients what they're charging for this or this over here? And it's a work in progress. It's not something that is static, and once you find out the price, you walk away and you point at it till the end of time, because just think of how much your prices have changed since returning from COVID.
Yep.
And, what do we have? 9.1% inflation last week, according to the review.
Yes.
So
they're going to be changing again soon.
Yes. All that research you did is going to become irrelevant in the next 30 to 90 days, I'd say, for all of us.
Yeah.
So
You just brought
keep
up a
doing it.
memory. Yeah, you just brought up a memory. We actually used to have a chart of like some of our competition in Hell's Kitchen hanging on the wall in our sales room, so clients could see it if they were curious about how our rates compared to other people's. And we weren't always the cheapest. We weren't always sharing it because we were the cheapest. We were sharing it because that's the landscape we're being compared to. And we wanted to be really transparent about, like, yeah, we know what you're looking at. It's right here. We have the numbers. You don't know what they're charging down the street? We do. It's right here. Yeah. And that was a really great advantage in that sales conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Cheap is fine if that's your angle, but there's nothing scarier than the middle. I'd be happy to be at the top of that list and let my clients see it, because that's an opportunity to look them in the eye and say, yeah, you get what you pay for.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Well, another great conversation, my friend. Again, listeners, comment down below wherever you're listening to this. Let us know what you want to talk about next. Email us, Wow, I can't say that fast. Michael at businessforunicorns.com, Pete at businessforunicorns.com. Let us know what topics you want to cover on the podcast or what guests you want us to have. We're always looking for new ideas, and we really appreciate listening. So thanks for a great chat, Pete. I'll see you on the next one.
Good talk. See you soon.
Well, I hope you loved today's podcast, and forgive me, I want to remind you one more time, if you haven't already done so, head over to businessofunicorns.com, click the button, and get your free self-assessment, the ultimate training gym owner report card. I promise you're going to want to dig into this resource and get the support you need, finding crystal clarity on exactly where you need to be focusing to create a life and a business you love.